columnist, and our friend, along with KTRS contributor, the Sports Guys at Night, joins us every Monday. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, McGraw. How are you?
All right, lots going on. First of all, let's get right to it. The top story is your column on, I guess it was Friday or Saturday, whatever it was, talking about St. Louis University Billikens basketball team. This is one of the most confounding stories because it seems like it was a consensual affair with a number of basketball players and a number of women. No charges have been filed, but some of them have been suspended until the 2020 season. This is making no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, there are a lot of unanswered questions at this point still. There have been no criminal charges filed, but technically a criminal investigation is, quote, ongoing. Now, the players' lawyers say that that's just a formality, that there won't be any criminal charges over this. Of course, the police are not saying that because the case is still open. It's confusing because three of the players have not played, and some of them have been able to travel with the team and have been practice. Well, that's not the case anymore. They did not travel with the team to UMass, but one player continues to play. Also, one of the players, so there's four players involved in this. Three have been suspended, all for more than a year, in various terms, and another one has been expelled. But because the lawyers are not saying who they represent, it's basically turned into a guessing game on which players are involved and who has been expelled, and they're not going to be able to keep that secret forever. But it's been a pretty odd situation. The biggest question that comes to mind is if what happened was determined to be so bad by the university's Title IX investigation, then how is one player still playing?
Right.
And Scott Rosenblum, the attorney for the players, just went off on Friday and basically, called the investigation everything but rigged, and said that they were only attempting to find what they wanted to find. So it's going to be I don't think it's anywhere close from being over, but it's certainly becoming something that is not able to exist in silence anymore, which is kind of what SLU was hoping for, I think.
Yeah, well, and then think about when a player is charged, right? Oftentimes the coaches say, hey, you know what, innocent until proven guilty, he's going to continue to play. We will deal with it ourselves. So in the past, you had situations where a player was charged with something and still played. Here, players aren't charged with anything and are suspended for years.
Yeah, and there have been some other interesting twists. The players were initially told they could not be on campus. They were moved off campus. And then they were told, well, you can come back. So they came back. And then they were told, no, you can't be here. You got to move off again. So they've been put through some hoops there. And then, there's been another issue where the kind of agreed upon timeline at multiple points has not been adhered to by the Title IX investigation. You raised a good point as to why they were initially suspended in the first place before a decision was made. And these are some of the questions that Rosenblum, who, let's be honest, he's an attorney. He represents the players. He clearly he's biased in this sense. That's
Right.
what lawyers do.
Right.
But he raised some fascinating questions that the university is not taking the time to answer. Now they're going to stick to privacy laws and things of that nature. But at some point, the press releases and the statements, they're not going to cut it because a lot of SLU basketball fans are wondering what goes on here. And I got some blowback for what I wrote in Saturday's paper, and I think it's important to make it clear, like, it is not questioning what happened here or asking for answers on some of these things that don't make a lot of sense at surface level. That is not saying that nothing happened. It's also not saying that you don't care about the victims, the alleged victims in this case. Clearly, whatever happened, it was embarrassing for a lot of people, and, time will tell when the police will decide, and obviously the Title IX investigation thinks that the players did something wrong against the rules of the university. So it's not dismissing that to want, some follow-up on some details of this thing, and certainly you feel for anyone who's involved in this kind of situation. But I also think just because an investigation happened, it automatically means the players did something terrible. I think that's a bit of a reach, too. And, Rosenblum is an attorney. We all know how he operates, but he raised some interesting questions in this that I think if people take the time to read it for what it is, they might say, yeah, I wonder about that as well.
Yeah. And I know there's a lot of tentacles to this story, and there's not a lot of facts, and there's still many things we don't know. But is there any allegation that this was anything but consensual. We keep hearing that whatever happened was consensual. Is that a fact? Is that speculation? Is that opinion? Or is that, where are we with that?
The only details that we have about what happened came from Rosenblum, who is the attorney for 3 of the 4 players. Now, the details before that were non-existent. On the record,
Right.
details from someone that, to the point that, we knew had intimate knowledge of the investigation and what happened. Now, he came out and said this involves 3 women, and in his words, he said 2 of the women did not want to participate in the investigation, implying that they did not think that this was worth investigating. And the third, the one who did participate, there was proof that she had said this was a consensual interaction between the women and the players. So that's pretty strong. If there's evidence of that, and he obviously wasn't going to share it, but if there is evidence of that, then I'm not sure. I'm not sure how it got to this situation. Now, clearly, it doesn't get to this situation in the court of law. If there's evidence of that,
Yeah.
And that's why you haven't seen the players. That could be why you haven't seen the players charged with any crime. But the Title IX rules are different, and SLU does not have to say you're either committed a crime or you didn't. They can have higher standards or whatever they decide to do. Now, there are some questions about the way this Title IX investigation was ran, including why there was outside counsel brought in to run it, and why some of these agreed upon deadlines were missed. If the players were going to get booted, and this is effectively what's happening, you bring multiple year suspensions means that these guys are going to transfer, maybe look at going pro. But I don't think any player is going to sit out for more than a year and come back and play for the same college
Right.
when he can transfer somewhere else and play. Not every school has to uphold the same suspension. But there are questions as to that if the investigation was finished before the last semester ended. So why was there a wait for 2 weeks into this semester before they were informed of their suspension? That makes it a lot harder to leave if you're going to leave.
Yeah.
And it was finished. There was no reason it couldn't have been delivered. And that's another question the players' attorneys have. So people kind of roll their eyes when they hear countershoot. But Rosenblum, and we've only heard one side of the story. It's important to keep mentioning that.
Right.
Makes kind of a compelling case that SLU might have, if what he says is correct, might have opened itself up for the players being able to say, look, we were harmed in this.
Yeah. Two quick questions, Ben Frederickson, St. Louis Post-Dispatch columnist, and that is, did Scott Rosenblum mention that there was a videotape or pictures or something? Did he allude to that?
He did, yes. There is some sort of photo. He would not confirm whether it was a photo or a video. And he said that in his version of the story, he said that there were, at some point, photos or images made of the interaction.
Right.
And he was asked how much does that play into this, and that's when he kind of started saying, I'm not going to get into that. But he was asked specifically, was that known about? Were the photos or the video consensual? I mean, was that an agreed upon event? And he said, well, I don't know how they could not know. It was a small room, and he didn't dodge the question, but he made it clear that, again, no one had a problem with this until down the line, and the one who did there's proof that said it was consensual. So there is some sort of element involved in that, and how big of a part of that this is in this instance, that's a great question, one that we don't have the answer to yet.
And then lastly, Ben, and that is this. It seems like they're investigating this differently than in past situations of wrongdoing by athletes. And I don't know if this is a SLU change or an NCAA investigation, but you keep mentioning this Title IX investigation. Is that something new? Are they doing it differently now than they did years past?
Well, I guess the short answer is yes. These kind of instances have to be handled through the Title IX office now. And basically what that means is, an athletics department can't be the one in charge of investigating whether or not players did something. And that's good. I mean, you shouldn't have...
Right, you shouldn't have the coach investigating it or whatever.
You should have an unbiased investigation. Title IX is a national a national law that basically adheres to how these things are supposed to be handled. And so Title IX, people just think it's equal rights in sports and, women's teams and things of that nature. That's only a small part of it. Every school has a Title IX coordinator who's in charge of making sure Title IX is applied, making sure these things are done properly. So there's supposed to be kind of a good way to have an unbiased look at these types of situations. I think what Rosenblum would argue is that this was biased against the players.
All right.
That shouldn't be the case either.
Right. Title IX means equal, whether you're a man or a female.
And he's also got beef with Title IX at large. There's some things to Title IX that people have complained about in the past. You don't get the right to face your accusers. You don't get certain things that you would get in, like, say, a court of law. But those are complaints that have been made for a long time.
Yeah.
And I don't know that that's going to be privy or important to this case. But I asked Rosenblum specifically. I said, "Do you think Title IX is flawed, or do you think this was a flawed Title IX investigation? Because those are a bit different. Those are very different claims."
Right.
And he said he thinks it's both, but he thinks specific things happened against the players that he represents that could, if they get to that point, be combated in a court of law. So again, this is their lawyer. He's doing his job, and that doesn't mean you take his words and treat them as fact. That's just one side of the story.
Right.
But if you look at it and say, man, if he is telling the truth, if this is correct, then you wonder what the follow-up might be.
Ben Frederickson, never a dull moment. I got 30 seconds left. Randall Grichuk being traded. Were you surprised and a good move, or what?
I wasn't. I think it's a good move. I wasn't shocked because the Cardinals have too many outfielders and they need some more sure relievers, and they were able to get that in the major leaguer they brought on from Toronto. The timing was a little odd because they had just talked about Grichuk being their fourth outfielder at winter warm-up.
Right.
But this kind of opens the door for a Harrison Bader or maybe a Tyler O'Neill who has a really similar profile to Grichuk and also gives them some security in the bullpen, which they needed.
All right, good. Ben, have a good day. Thanks for checking in. Good stuff.
You bet, McGraw.